So, hi, all moms that are tuning in right now. I wanted to welcome you all that you decided to come on screen, even though today we're going to be talking about how we can step away or encourage our kids to step away from screens. And the idea of unplugging is not just to be clear. It's not to say that screens are all bad and it's all junk food and we don't want our kids accessing it. We are in the age, this is a digital age. However, we're talking about screen overuse. And I'm gonna before I introduce my guest, the mom that's right here on screen with me, I just wanted to say, Rachel, so welcome Rachel, I just wanted to just be clear that we're talking about like that screen overuse when maybe your kid is scrolling right up to bedtime, whether they're on, their Xbox or whatever they're doing, whether they're sleeping with screens. Maybe they're not getting enough physical exercise. Maybe whenever they're bored, and not just kids, adults too, right? It's kind of like unconsciously, well, there's nothing to do, let's pick up a screen, right? A tablet or a phone. Also kids that insist they want to eat dinner with the screen. They don't want to miss something. So that's when we're talking about screen overuse. So to lead the way today, I have the pleasure to have Rachel here, who's going to share with us her story. Obviously, this is not a one-size-fits-all, so it's really to talk about her story and what you can take away for your particular situation, what's happening in your home. And so maybe we'll start, Rachel, by just telling us a little bit about your family. How old were your kids when you did this DD, this digital detox, and that kind of thing?
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Anne. I'm happy to be here. I am a mom of 4. I have 2 stepsons that are now really adults, but there was about a 10-year age span between them and then my kids. When I did this digital detox with my kids, it was when they were 8 and 9. They had just turned 8 and 9 years old. My son was 9. My daughter was 8. And it was the summer. So, which is probably the toughest time for a parent to try to shut off electronics. I think part of, I always said that I didn't want my kids to be playing electronics when they were too young, but the fact that they had 2 older brothers in the house made it a little bit difficult. And I think they kind of got onto the electronic bandwagon a little bit earlier than I would have liked. But we were really careful about just, how much time they were spending on screens. But it just got worse over time. So I can tell you more about that, or
yeah. So like, what would you say was the thing that kind of spurred you on and made you that decision? I've got to do something right here, right now. Like, why right now? That's usually the question, right? Why a month or whatever?
Right. Well, it got to a point where it was out of control. Like, even though their time was limited, which is what I still do now. They're almost 11 and 12 now, and still everything is, it just shuts down at a certain time or shuts down after a certain amount of time. But I mean, they were like waking me up in the morning on the weekend saying, oh, can you just do the code on my iPad, or can you give me more time on this? Then you can go back to sleep. When they would watch TV, they were watching YouTube, talking about the video games that they were playing. It was just like, I felt like they were borderline obsessed with these games and just being glued to something, and they weren't like enjoying childhood. I mean, like, we all survived. Right?
There was the mood, there was the behavior within the mood, and like you said, being obsessed. So then what did you do?
Well, we kind of, like I said, it kind of built over time, but I mean, my son in particular was getting really, really angry. Like, anytime we would have to shut it down, or like, okay, your time is up. I mean, he would just, I don't want to say he was aggressive, but I mean, he was like super, super angry. And it was almost like he almost didn't have control over it. It was really kind of scary, really. So what I did is it was, I don't know, it was like mid-August and they didn't have any camp. We weren't starting school until like September 6th or 7th or something like that. So, I mean, this was like a chunk of time that was going to be really hard as a parent to keep them off of it. But I just kind of said, you know what? I said, this is what we're going to do. Enough is enough. And, you know, we're going to take some time off from this and kind of, you know, enjoy life and just kind of calm down, because it was kind of taking over their livelihood. And every second that they weren't doing something, that was what they would gravitate to or argue. They would fight over, you know, this one had more time, or I want to play by myself, or, you know, but he wants to watch me play and I don't want him. I mean, it was just this constant like battle. So pretty much I literally just took everything away with the exception of TV. I would let them watch TV maybe for like 60 or 90 minutes a day, but that was only because they didn't give me a hard time about it. Like I'd be like, okay, you know, let's pause here. We'll watch more tomorrow. It didn't really affect them. But I mean, it was really to a point where it was like affecting, especially my son in particular, like their brain, it was like a drug. I mean, it was crazy. So I literally just, you know, they were young enough that I could just take it away, put it away. And we just kind of proceeded with life. And, you know, there were tears, there was anger initially. It took about a week probably before they were able to like not be thinking about it.
Wow.
I would say, yeah.
I guess so. So how long would you say? You said it took about a week. So did they ever kind of like try to sneak in and get things, or was it because everything was like you had passcodes or like passwords, so they couldn't access it? They weren't
Yeah,
trying
they
to
couldn't access it.
back or whatever.
Yeah, they couldn't access it, but they would come to me and they'd be like, please, you know, please, can I just play for 20 minutes? Or, you know, why are you so mean? And like, you know, why are we doing this? And I'm so bored. And like that kind of thing. But it was almost like it had to get out of their system. Like I kind of noticed my son, even like when he was sleeping, it was kind of like he's been known to sleepwalk. He'd be mortified if he knew I was saying that. But it was kind of like, and I had been reading something about it, like it's just like the brain kind of like shifts and changes over time. He was waking up in the middle of the night kind of sleepwalking, or he was sweating. It was almost like he was like coming off like a drug. Like, I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Oh.
Yeah.
But when you said about the boredom, because so then what kind of alternatives did you offer them? Like, because we don't want to just say that's it and then they're bored, right?
Yeah. Well, we belonged to like a town pool. It was right around the corner, and they always loved spending time there. So we would spend a lot of time there because they knew it was like, okay, do you want to go to the pool? And they knew if they stayed home, they weren't going to be playing any electronics. So therefore, we would go to the pool, they would swim, they would get exercise, they would socialize, they would have fun. And if it was a rainy summer day, like I tried to find movies, you know, like based off of books or just like funny movies that we hadn't seen before, that they hadn't seen before, and we could just share as a family. You know, they started like organizing. They kind of took things upon themselves. It was like this, I don't know, like something had just changed, and they just had more ideas of ways to occupy their time. Like they, you know, they started playing with our cats more. Our cats were kind of like puppies to us at the time. I would find them playing the piano. I would find them organizing their rooms. I would kind of give them, hey, you want to, you know, dust? And they'd be like, oh yeah, like, how can I help? You know, they were just much more like involved almost. It was just, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
but what's like in the beginning, you were giving them an alternative, right?
Yeah.
Taking them to the pool and things of that nature. Though you did get them on a screen because they're watching a movie, but it's a different kind of experience because it was more of a family experience rather than being like doing
exactly. Yeah.
But then it seems like then it shifted, and then you went on to having your kids do kind of like more like self-starting activities.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, I'm going to organize my room, which is amazing. There's a lot of kids that was the last thing they'd be doing. So,
right.
So then that went on for like how long? Like, how long were they off their screens then?
It was 30 days.
Oh,
it was like Yeah. And,
Wow.
and actually about 10 days in, my son actually said to me, Mom, he said, I think I'm better without electronics. And what he was referring to was his behavior. Like he had the insight, he realized himself, like, wow, like this really does affect me. Like I'm not arguing with my sister, I'm not arguing with my mother, I'm not angry, I'm not preoccupied. Like, so it was kind of amazing, like how he was able to realize that and like make the connection that it really just really made a huge difference. But yeah, it was a solid 30 days. I mean, they played with friends, they went to friends' houses. I mean, I didn't feel like I needed to dictate what they were doing at a friend's house. I would kind of mention to the parents like, oh, we're kind of detoxing on electronics, so if they are going to play, I'd appreciate it if they could do some other things for a while and just, kind of do that towards the end. They had a sleepover. They had friends come over to sleep over, and there was and their friends, I remember it was a set of teens. They were really like into their gaming, they were like all into it. So coming to sleep over and not being able to do that.
Electronics, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, kids, here's popcorn. You can watch a movie, like tell ghost stories, like, whatever.
Okay.
They survived. They were fine.
Okay, but 30 days is quite a stretch. Like, I'm wondering, where did you get the idea of the 30 days? Why 30 days? Why not? I'm giving you an example. Why not just say this weekend we're not going to have electronics? Because what was it that was running through your mind?
Well, everything that I have read is that it takes 30 days to really change a habit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like, we could do this for, it was just like, we were so far gone at that point that I just felt like I had to do something drastic because behavior was only getting worse. Fighting was only getting worse. And I just had to shut it down. I was like, we just have to make a drastic change. And 30 days is a good solid amount of time to, totally implement change.
Okay, but then what about you? And what about their father, your husband? Like, how did that impact? Because kids don't listen always to what we say. They also listen to they also watch what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I definitely was probably more present myself. I mean, it's like, that's the problem. It's like the kids don't understand that we now in this day and age, we do so much on our phones, and it's not like, be like, I'm not sitting and playing games. Like I'm doing banking. I'm, shopping for XYZ. I'm replying to an email like from your teacher. But I think I definitely made myself more present and more available to, to spend time with them. Not that I wasn't spending time with them before, but just to really make an effort. Like we started having inside jokes, and we were laughing and tickling, and they came to me about a week or two in, and my kids are not big readers. Like, unfortunately, that's just not their thing. And they came and they said, Mom, I think it was my son actually. And he said, Mom, I'd really like to read a book with you. Can we start reading a book together? Like, wow. I fell off my chair. So, yes, of course, so we would spend time before we went to bed, like reading a book, and it was every night. He looked forward to it. It was kind of like our time. Yeah. So definitely had to shift. I mean, I remember
going. Huge shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a huge shift. And it's, that's amazing. Like reading, actually him wanting to read a book.
Was unheard of.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So, and what about their father? What was his, your husband, what was his reaction? How did he see all this? Was he like going along, but it was challenging for him?
Yeah, I mean, like initially I think he thought I was being a little bit extreme, but he was typically always at work, and I was the one home dealing with that. Right. And he was like, what? He's like, if you want to do that, like I'm at work, I'll support it when I'm around, whatever you want to do about it is fine.
Oh, okay.
But he was like, that's a big challenge, like for me, like as a mom home with my kids in the middle of the summer, with no structured activities. But he saw that the behavior, that things were shifting and changing, and he was like, hey, you know what, you don't have anything to lose. And as long as you're, I think he really kind of like appreciated that I was doing it, because it's, I mean, like I said, it's a hard thing for a parent. I mean, it's hard for the kids, but I think it's, you don't have like, oh, go play a game for an hour, so I can, whatever, or that kind of thing. So
it's offering. So then the alternatives were there, and they got on board, and in the end they began to ask for things like, can you read to me? So then how did you make that shift? Because 30 days is pretty intense. And then then after that, then what happened? What was the gradual bringing in electronics?
I don't know why I remember this, but I think the last day of the detox was a Thursday. So what I did is I said, you can have 60 minutes on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. You can do 30-30, you can do 20-20-20, you can do a whole hour, but you pick. You want to do Nintendo, you want to do iPad, you want to do, Xbox. And we just, but Sunday night, the negotiations started. Well, when I come home from school, if I finish my homework, and I was like, nope, we are just sticking with the weekends, because the whole issue with that was like, they were coming home and rushing through their homework so that they could, and I was just like, no. So we just kind of stuck with that for a while. They got used to it. I did notice that my son went over to his friend's house down the street a lot, where they kind of had a little more free reign, and he would come home and he'd be in a different mood. Yeah.
What kind of a mood? What are you talking about when you say he's in a mood?
Defensive, argumentative.
Oh, okay.
Well, they let me play, this and that. Like, they don't have limits there. Like, and I was like, that's nice. So then we invited those kids to come to the pool with us one day. Like, I was like, you know what? Like, let's engage them in things that we're doing too. Yeah.
And so then now, fast forward now. So now you have an 11 and a 12-year-old.
Yes.
So what has changed, or has everything gone back to the status quo, or what would you say the lessons, the takeaways from this?
I would say definitely, like, my kids are definitely more aware. Like, they know mom doesn't want us playing a lot of screen. So they're kind of like, I'm just going to do 15 minutes more, or like that kind of thing. I still have all the limits set up. The iPad has a code. The video games, I have to, I can set up X amount of time on certain days, starting at a certain time or ending, like, and it just shuts off. So it's like, when you're done, you're done. Like, if you have a time limit on the weekends, it just shuts off. So I'm not to blame, really. I mean, I kind of am, but, but I'm not like I didn't come up and shut it off. They have phones now, which I really, really was not excited about. But we moved out of state. We were in a new community. And unfortunately, it just seems like the kids had phones younger. And it was like, literally, like, my kids were the only kids that didn't have like a phone or something. Oh, I don't know where Anne went, but I will keep talking. I think she'll come back. Are you there, Anne? No. Okay. But so we did eventually give them phones over COVID, just so they could communicate with friends and that sort of thing, especially since we were still fairly kind of new here. But we only set up the phones to have texting and phone calls and music. That was the only, that was the purpose of the phone. The purpose of the phone was not to sit and be on and playing games and hold on a minute and, all that type of stuff. It was really more, it had a purpose. So that's kind of what we do with phones. The phones are in our, I think I let my son download chess because he's a very good chess player. And that's good for his brain. So I was like, you know what, if he has chess on his phone, like, it's fine. I can set up the phones. Verizon has Smart Family, where you can actually set up what, apps or time limits or things like that. It shows me the history of like what they might be doing on there. So we've kind of implemented that. And I started having them bring the phones into the room at night, and they're kind of like, what? Like, I'm not really doing anything. And yeah, I'm saying to myself, at this age, they might not be doing anything, bad or shady or whatever. But as they get older, I don't know what they're going to be doing. And the expectation will be there that they can have their phones overnight in their rooms unless I set the precedence now. So we do that. As far as my son is PS4 now. As far as that, I tell him, I'm like, use your time wisely. Like, do you want to sit at 8 o'clock in the morning on a weekend playing by yourself? And then 4 o'clock is going to come and you only have a certain amount of time left and you're going to want to play with your friends. So, I'm like, kind of like, find something else to do with your time. And then when your friends come on, you can play with them. Like, what's the point of just sitting there playing a video game just because you can? And I always try to get them at nighttime, like an hour before bed, because it's like, it really stimulates the brain, the bright screens, all that kind of stuff. So I try to just say, okay, it's 8:45 or, whatever time it is. They're on different bus schedules, but okay, let's put it away and just, go chill. I don't want to read. Okay, fine. Don't read. Go take a bath. Go draw. Go, play with the cats, play with the dog. Just do something else that is not going to be stimulating you. So we do that. They definitely do more than 60 minutes, but during the week, they're so busy because now, thankfully, they are back at school 5 days a week. And, they come home from school, they have homework, they have activities they're going to. And so maybe at nighttime, maybe they have like an hour to, jump on something. So during the week, it's kind of a little more controlled. It's a little bit easier. Summer's coming. So that's, again, always a battle. I have them set up in camps. They're going to go to camp every other week, or we're going to be on vacation. So it's kind of like 1 week on, 1 week off in terms of, I said, we're going to have a week of chaos and then a week of calm. But, we live in a community that has a pool right down the street. And typically I'm in Charlotte now. I was up in the Northeast of the US, like in the tri-state area. But now the weather is really, really good. Hi, Ann. I've just been talking. I'm like, where Ann went. But
just a second. Turn this off. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to get it on Facebook on my phone. I don't know. I don't know, the whole thing froze.
No. I was just saying, what was I saying? I was saying something about the pool. Oh yeah, so the weather here, I had no idea, but in Charlotte, we supposedly get 300 days of sunshine. So if it rains for like 20, we get days of rain, but like if it rains, it's like 20-minute, like crazy storm, and then everything's fine. So it's kind of like we can be outside a lot. And like I said, my neighborhood is conducive like to biking and, there's a pool and all that kind of stuff. So summer, I was just saying that summer was going to kind of be a challenge. I was saying that now during school, they don't really have a lot of time. They're back in school 5 days a week. They have activities. So if they get like an hour at night, it's, they're excited about it. So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I missed because out of orbit, but so Sunday night to Thursday night, is that kind of like a different schedule during the school year than Friday night and Saturday night? I'm just talking evenings now, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I always say Sunday night to Thursday night because we know the next day, generally, when we're talking about a school year, they have school. So did you already talk about that? You talked about a different kind of schedule depending on where we are in the week, or how much are they on screens with you on the weekend? Do you like incite them? I'm thinking that if we, like you talked about the swimming and doing activities, but like, and it's good, the weather, but what about like finding things that they're going to be, actually it's going to be fun. So it's not like I must, I should, I need to get off screens, but actually this is a fun activity that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, here's another idea that I should really implement. I kind of thought about this one summer and I and I wish that I had implemented it, but it's kind of like, okay, we're going to have like, electronic free Tuesdays. And like, if you do that, then we can, we'll go do something fun. We'll go bowling, we'll go out for ice cream. We'll, whatever. I mean, I think what happened was, we were really good about Sunday through Thursday initially, but then when COVID hit, things got really tricky. And I think it was just so hard because we were home all day. We were in virtual school. We weren't at school as much. We weren't doing activities, and things kind of, went by the wayside to a degree. It didn't really go the way I would have wanted it to, but I think that's everyone, and it's a temporary time.
Everyone, like you said. I think it's like anything. We're not talking, like I said at the beginning of this live, that it's not like one size fits all. It's not like black and white thinking. Like it's all like, screens are junk food and we don't want it. I think it's when I said it was the screen overuse, and noticing or learning to observe when your kid needs a detox, right? Like you said that your son, when he would come back from a friend's house, you noticed it's almost like any kind of addiction, right? When you notice a difference in mood and behavior, more snappy, like snappier, I guess. And so you're not you're just seeing a different version of your kid. And then we can kind of maybe think that it's kind of normal. Well, and so then what is the new normal, and what do we value, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. It was just, he was just kind of like he was just a different kid. And it was just, I was just saying, I'm like, this is not my kid. Like, my kid's a sweet kid. He, he likes to cuddle. He likes to spend time with his family. It just all kind of, you could just really, really see the change in him. I think now that he's a little bit older, I don't see it as much as I used to when he was younger. And it's different for every kid, because there are high school students that are literally addicted.
Through the night.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's why I have the limits on everything. And they say that you should really, if they're going to do screens, like, don't let them have it. Like, let them have it in like 60 to 90 minute increments, and then take a break. So that's kind of still what we do. Like, okay, you can go play for a little while, and then we're going to shut down for a while. You're going to go have lunch. You're going to, do whatever, go outside. You're going to clean your, whatever it is. You're going to go ring the doorbell and find a friend to play with, whatever it is. And then you can come back later and, do a little more. And I was explaining too that, it's just kind of like, there's a certain amount of time, like on the weekends, and once your time is up, your time is up. Yes. So, don't do it all at 8 a.m, because you're not going to be happy at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and of course, it's interesting because you said that they could knock at a door, but then the door could be that someone's on a screen. Yeah. So these are, and what about your daughter then? I missed maybe that part.
Yeah, no.
Because your daughter also, and just a year difference, she's a different temperament, I would say.
Yeah.
So what was her relationship when you did the 30-day detox, and what would you say you noticed?
Well, she was different. Like, she wanted to play on it, but she wasn't like crying. Like, she was kind of like, my son, I feel like, was more extreme, and she was just kind of like a kid that, you took my electronics away, like, but she was young enough that it was like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And she's a kid that will entertain herself. I mean, she'll go in her room for, 2 hours and just, oh, I was doing this and I was doing that. So she was just innately just able to find things to do. My son, on the other hand, always wants to be with a person, always wants to be on a screen, has to be like entertained. And that's what I was kind of trying to to stop. Like, you have to learn, that you're not always going to have someone by your side. You're not always going to have something to keep you occupied. Like, I remember after the detox was over, that they wanted to play. And I said, okay, well, it's a beautiful day, go outside and play for half an hour, and then you can come back in and, maybe we'll play then. So they were saying, I don't want to go outside, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think I have a picture of them sitting on my lawn, looking at their watches. That's how they spent their time outside. But you know, I always say like it's good. I tell my kids, they hate this. I say it's good to be bored. Like it's healthy. It's healthy to be bored. Like I remember being bored as a kid. I'm so bored. Kids don't do that today because there's always something to stimulate them. There's always something to watch. But I'm sorry, I got off topic because you're asking about my daughter. But she
but I think what I'm getting though, and even with your daughter, is that we all have different skill sets, right? Like natural abilities, and maybe your daughter, you're saying she was able to kind of entertain or maybe more naturally curious about things, and she was able to just do things. But we have all kinds of kids with all kinds of temperaments, and they're growing up in an age where screen is everywhere. So it's what I'm getting from you though, and I think this is really important for me, for my values anyway, is that you were guiding them. You're kind of like imagining them as a future adult. So you're not giving them everything because you want them, so then when they are, this case, when they were like, I don't know, 20 years from now, let's say, at the time, that they will have a little bit, well, let's just say we would wonder if they could have had like more self-control or deciding, well, you know what? No, I think I'm going to step away from my screen. I've had enough. Right? Because they were given opportunities or choices, or to kind of like teach them something else, that it's not like like it's kind of like drawn, because we're all unconsciously drawn to the screen, right? We all of us scroll up, but you're giving them that pause, like pressing the pause button. It's almost
right. Yeah, I mean, I think it was for me, like I just wanted them to realize that there was life beyond screens, that it's healthy to be bored. You know, you don't have to just cope with your boredom by jumping on a screen because it's there, because you can press a button and it's available. Like you can use your imagination. I mean, I remember during the detox, we drove. You're right there? Oh, okay. I didn't know if you froze.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
No, I know. I was very strange.
during the detox time, we took like a long weekend at the Jersey Shore, because we were living in New Jersey at the time, and it was like 2.5, 3 hour ride. Like we were going like way down the shore, and I told my kids, you gotta, you know, we're not doing iPads in the car. You need to, you know, here's a backpack. Fill it with things that you want to do. And for the weekends, you know, we're going to be at the beach, and we're, you know, but when we're in the hotel room, we're not, you know, we watch some TV, we watch cartoons or something. They didn't bring that much in the car. And I'm saying to myself, oh my gosh, they're going to go crazy. But I was kind of like, you know what? I told them to pack. And if they don't pack, I told them, you know, you're going to have to figure out things to do. But it was like we were playing like the car games, you know, the license plates and the letter A on the, you know, and I think my daughter had brought like 2 stuffed animals, and they actually sat there and like played. They played together. It was like they just used their brain.
Really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm going to reach over here to the chat and see some comments. Now, ideally, it would have been here that people would have allowed you know, given permission to the StreamYard so we could see who's speaking, but there's some comments here. I agree, Rachel. We moved from Wisconsin to Wilmington last year, and I was like, we got to be outside every day with this kind of weather. So yeah, so the whole thing about changing.
Good weather helps, you know.
Yes. Though sometimes you wonder, some kids in this day and age, it's like you have to kind of yank them outside. I feel like starting young with limits is kind of key. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
it's like with everything, right? But that's why elementary school, there's a lot of things we can do. There are friends we hang out with less because that kid or two is so screen focused for entertainment. Yeah, that is a challenge, but I thought that was interesting what you did. You did share with them, because that's, in a way, it's like planting a seed, because a lot of parents maybe feel more helpless or hopeless, like, what are you going to do? Like, that's all they want to do, and you don't feel that you have that option, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've asked kids when they've come here, like if my kids have had, I mean, obviously with COVID, they haven't been doing sleepovers really, but when kids would come, I would just say, I mean, I actually would try to act, because they were young kids. I'd be like, hey, you know, I'll hold on to your phone for the night, you know, because I didn't want them to be up at 2 a.m. and they're on someone else's phone, and I don't know what apps or things that they're doing.
That's actually
most of the kids didn't care. I had one that was kind of like, I don't feel comfortable with that. But he was actually a kid that I knew was really disciplined, and I knew his mom. And so he's like, I'm just going to plug it in over here, but I promise, we're not going to go on it. And I said, I trust you with it. I'm like, but I don't trust my son. So don't let him near it, and it was fine. But it's like, I try to when we go somewhere, like my kids we never, ever let them play screens in a restaurant. Like if we were in a restaurant, you were sitting at the table, participating in the discussion, enjoying the experience of where you are. And it wasn't like, okay, now you're done. Yeah, now you can go play screens. Like, no, because I would hate when I would go in a restaurant and I would see families together and the kids are just like, doing this, and the adults are talking and doing their thing and the kids are just consumed in their own stuff. Or if people come over, I say, you need to sit and spend time, talking, if it's adults, just have some conversation. If they have kids with them, go do some stuff for a while. You can do screens later. It was, and as far as the comment that said like having limits early on is key. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And in an ideal world, I probably would have tried to push it off even further. But, but with older siblings in the house, that had different, that were kind of between two houses, it was kind of harder. And my kids looked up to their brothers so much. It was like, oh, they're playing this game and, that kind of thing. But I would just say the longer you can put it off, the better.
Very good. And we have a question here. Yeah. Do you think that that's personality, or did you have different parenting rules when he was small? I don't know. That was probably when you were talking about his personality.
Yeah, no, they pretty much, like as a parent, I parented them both the same way, but yeah, they're just different. They're just different personalities in that regard. My son, I noticed at a very young age, had a very low frustration tolerance. And I just started dealing with that like the minute I saw it. He's they're both stubborn, but he's even more stubborn. And he's a great kid. He's a lovely kid. He's great. But yeah, no, I didn't. I tried to make the rules kind of the same for everyone. So I wasn't like singling him out or anything like that. And I knew it was also beneficial to my daughter too. I don't know if that answers the question, but.
Well, I think it does. I mean, and we're dealing with different, like you were saying, different personalities, different temperaments too, right? Some people are going to be, some kids, like adults too, are actually able to more entertain or find things to do. Right. And then we have my daughter, 8, has to be entertained. My son is basically addicted. What would you answer to that?
So the son is addicted to screens.
And my daughter has to be entertained.
I would say as long as they get along, which I hope they do, or if I don't know how close in age they are, but if it's that they're given, like ideas maybe possibly to do things together. I also had, a list. I have it here somewhere. If I can find it, I'll screenshot it and post it in the comments, but it was like things to do when I'm bored. And there's there's a whole list of different things. But yeah, I would just definitely say if they can do things together, or if they can, hang out with friends, with COVID, I know things are different in different places. Or, giving them like a project, like let's do a puzzle, you know what I mean? Like something like that or let's play Monopoly, because that's a long board game. You can break it up over a couple days, that kind of thing. But probably just having alternative activities, telling them, once you've gotten exercise, done something active, and once you've, helped around the house and X, Y, and Z, then you can have some time. It's like this whole when then thing, like when you do this, then you can have your device. Or,
Definitely the when and the then. Yeah, because then it's kind of like appreciated more like a dessert.
Right. It's like a reward. And I tell my kids all the time, I tell them all the time, I'm like, it's a privilege for you to have a phone. It's a privilege for you to have a PS4. Like, just because it's yours, like at the end of the day, I'm still in charge of, until you're 18 and you're going to school or, doing something elsewhere, like, I pay for your phone. So if I want your phone in my room at night, then I get your phone. It's, I don't.
Well, very good. Well, I'll just, there's one more. I had the same difference with my son and daughter. It was tougher for my son with digital detox. So unfortunately, we don't have the names. Maybe the next time when we do one of these, everyone will know that you need to allow a StreamYard to, have access to your name, because then we knew who we're talking to. And then we have, thank you for sharing your experience, Rachel. Got a lot of takeaways today, and we all did. And so my invitation to everyone here, as we just close up, do you have any final thoughts so people can comment even after we stop? Because
yeah, sure. And I'll be happy to respond to comments even like after the fact.
Yeah, for sure. So, but what would you? So anyone that's listening in the replay can both put replay and put maybe your takeaways. What's your takeaway or takeaways? So do you have any final thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like a review. Like I would just say, the older they are starting on it, the better. Always have limits.
Just that the older they start on it.
The older they start on electronics.
Oh, the older. Oh, I see. Okay. Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like push it off as long as you can. Always have limits. And like I said, with the phones, like taking them away at night just to set a precedence for when they're 16 years old, that it's not unusual that your parents have your phone, even though they're 16. I mean, like I said, I pay for the phone. So yeah. And you could actually, I would add, when my kids were teen, we would put on airplane mode, because I didn't want to hear notifications at 3 a.m. Right? Oh yeah, that too, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right. You can communicate with anyone, anywhere, right? So they're up, and
I think the when then thing. I'm sorry, I keep coughing. The when then thing. I'm just gonna get some water.
The when you do this, then you can go on video games or whatever it is. Then you can go on.
And then they're doing things throughout the day. Like it's like, okay, over the summer, like read for half an hour, go swim or ride your bike, or walk the dog, and just like anything. Like once you've done all this, then then you can have some time. And it's kind of like my kids when they're in camp, even though so they're occupied for like a full half of the day. But it's kind of like, okay, when they come home, when they come home, I sometimes give them like a little break, but then it's like, okay, now that time's up, and now do X, Y, and Z, and then later you can have more time, like that kind of thing.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And I think it was very informative. And as I said just now, that please post your takeaways. And and thanks for kind of kicking off an idea that I'm going to do other StreamYard. So if anyone in this group has a story to share that would benefit the others, please reach out to me, DM me, and we'll get this party going every week.
That's awesome. Great. Okay. If people, I'll catch up on I'll check in on the comments if people have more questions or.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.